Hello, this is Mrs. Ellison, and this is the video for the Worked Through Semester 1 Algebra 1 Common Assessment Review. So let's get started. Number 1 says to simplify 8 times the quantity x minus 5 minus x plus 2. The first thing we need to do is distribute that 8 into those parentheses. So we have 8 times x minus 8 times 5, which is 40, minus x plus 2. And from here, we can collect our like terms. There's 8x minus x, which is 7x. And then we have negative 40 plus 2. Together, those make negative 38. So number 1 is A. Number 2, solve 4y plus 6x equals 7. Solve for y. Okay, we want to get y by itself, and one thing we talked about in my class was to cover up everything associated with y here and look at what's left over. We need to move this plus 6x away from it before we can do anything else. So we need to subtract 6x from both sides. Now 7 and 6x are not like terms, so we cannot combine them, and that gives us 4y equals 7 minus 6x. This is 4 times y. To undo that, we divide both sides by 4. Which leaves us the equation y equals 7 minus 6x over 4, and number 2 is also A. Number 3 says to solve this absolute value equation, we have the absolute value of x plus 2 plus 5 equals 7. And we need to remember we have to have this absolute value isolated before we can solve it. So this plus 5 needs to go over to the other side first. So now we have the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 7 minus 5 is 2. And from here, we need to split this into two separate equations because this absolute value could have started out life as a positive or a negative number. And in order to reach 2, we need to have either x plus 2 equals 2, or it's possible that x plus 2 was negative 2. And then we solve each of these equations by subtracting 2 from each side. We have x equals 0 or x equals negative 4. That is option B. Number 4, which equation can be used to solve the following proportion? So if we cross multiply, 7 times 9 is 63, and negative 3 times this whole denominator, remember to put parentheses around that, that's m minus 2. And when we distribute this negative 3 into those parentheses, we have negative 3m, and negative 3 times positive 2 is plus 6, and that is option B. Number 5, the simple interest paid on a loan after 2 years was $11.25. The annual interest rate was 1.5%. What was the principal? This is an I equals P times R times T problem. We need to fill in what we know and then solve for what we don't. The simple interest paid was $11.25, so that's the interest. It asks what was the principal, so that's a number we don't know. The rate was 1.5%, but you have to remember that needs to be a decimal, not a percent. So that is 0.015. And then the time in years was 2. Now we can multiply the numbers we know on the right-hand side. That'll be P times 0.015 times 2 is 0.03. And then to get P by itself, we'll just divide by 0.03. And that leaves us with P equals 375. So 5 is D. Number 6, Ralph bought one sweater for $19.99 and 3 pairs of socks. We can make that into an expression. He spent $19.99 plus 3 times however much the socks cost. In all, so that would equal, he spent $28.96. And this is actually as far as we need to go with this particular problem. We need to find, that looks like C, the one that looks like this, it's just backwards. Number 7, what is the range of the function below? We're assuming the one graphed here. The range is your set of possible y values, and it is, it's easy to see that the highest value up here, that's about 3.5, and y doesn't ever go above that, but it does go below it. So it could be less than 3.5. It could equal 3.5, but it's never higher than. This is the one we're looking for. And remember, it's range, so it's y, not x. Those are no good. The option here is C. Number 8, which expression represents the output of the nth term? There are a couple of different ways we can go about this. With a multiple choice test, we can kind of use our resources and kind of plug in the numbers that we've got and see which one of these will work for all of the pairs that we have. So if we take 1 and we plug it in, 2 times 1 minus 3 would be 2 minus 3, which is negative 1, and that doesn't match, so it's not A. 2 times 1 minus 5 would be 2 minus 5, which is negative 3, so that's a possibility. N minus 5 would be 1 minus 5, which is negative 4, so that's not it. And then negative 2n minus 3 would be negative 2 minus 3 more is negative 5, so it's also not it. The only option that's even possible here is B. Number 9 asks which scatter plot is the best example of a positive correlation. Now, positive correlation is just something that slopes upward, and it looks here like D is the only one of those. This looks like a no correlation. This one is a negative slope. That would mean negative. This one's kind of a weird V shape. That's probably also no correlation. So D is our answer here. Number 10 asks which graph does not represent a function. Now remember, when you have graphs, you can use your vertical line test. And that means that if you ever can draw a vertical line that crosses that graph in more than one place, what you have is not a function. A appears to pass, B appears to pass, C appears to pass, but D fails. It passes through the graph twice here. So D is the answer to number 10. Number 11, which graph shows the solutions of 4x minus 6 is greater than 2x minus 9? Now remember, with inequalities, we can solve them very much like we would solve an equation. We can just move, if we've got variables on both sides, we can take the smaller one and move it over to be with the bigger one. Minus 2x from both sides would cancel this, and over here would leave us with 2x minus 6. And then we would solve this by adding 6. That gives us 2x is greater than negative 3, and then divide both sides by 2, so that x is greater than negative 3 halves, which is the same as negative 1.5. Now greater than is going to be an open circle to the right, and that'll be at negative 1.5. That is option B. Number 12, which represents the solution of 3 times the absolute value of x minus 2 is greater than 13. Again, we have to isolate our absolute values, so we would do that by adding 2 to both sides, and then divide both sides by 3. So we have the absolute value of x is greater than 5. Okay, the absolute value means distance from 0. So we know that whatever x is, it is more than, that's what greater than means, more than 5 units away from 0 on the number line. So that means that it's either more than 5 or less than negative 5. And that's how we would write this. X is greater than 5, and that's an or. X is less than negative 5. That will be our answer. And that is option A. Number 13, which solutions are shown by the graph below? This appears to be an or statement. In my class, we talked about how when they went opposite directions, like the oars on a boat, that would be an or statement. So we'll just simply write what each part of the graph would be written like if it were by itself. This is x is, oops, we're using J. Sorry about that. J is less than or equal to, this is a closed dot, so it has to have the or equal to included, less than or equal to 5, or J is greater than 8. And that will be option D. Number 14, what is the value of h of x equals the absolute value of x minus 4 plus 3 when x equals negative 3. So we're looking for h of negative 3. Wherever we see an x, we're going to plug in negative 3. So negative 3 minus 4, absolute value, plus 3. That is negative 7. And the absolute value of negative 7 is just 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. So 14 is C. 15 asks for the slope of the line that contains negative 3, 4, and 7, 5. When we have 2 points, we are going to use our slope formula. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And if we label our points, sometimes that helps. So this is point 1 and this is point 2. Then this is x1, this is y1, and here's x2 and y2. So y2 is 5 minus y1 is 4 over x2, which is 7, minus x1, which is negative 3. So that's 7 minus negative 3. And remember, minus negative really means plus. 5 minus 4 is 1. 7 plus 3 is 10. So the answer is A, 1/10. Number 16 asks which shows negative 2x plus y equals negative 6 written in slope-intercept form. Now in class we have not explicitly talked about slope-intercept form. Some of you have seen it before, and that's wonderful, but we are going to talk about that in January. What we need to do is solve for y. This is something we have done many, many times. So we just need to isolate y, which should be pretty easy. All we need to do is add 2x to both sides. And when we do that, remember 2x and negative 6 are not like terms. So y equals, that'll be 2x minus 6. And that'll be option D. That's really all there is to number 16. Number 17, find the value of x so that the points x, negative 4, and 3, negative 6 lie on a line with a slope 1/3. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is graph 3, negative 6. That'll be over 3 and down 6, and that's here. And if we were to go with a slope 1/3, remember that's rise over run. Those are both positive, so we can go up 1 and over 3. We can do that a few times, and kind of go backwards this way too a few times. And that's what the line will look like if we were to connect it. Now we're looking for the point x, negative 4. Negative 15, negative 4 is over here somewhere. 3, negative 4 is right here. Negative 3, negative 4 is right here. And 9, negative 4 is right here. And that appears to be what would be on that line. So 17 is D. Number 18 asks, what is the equation of the line graphed below? And what this really kind of boils down to, we haven't, again, seen slope-intercept form, but we do know that the slope is the number that multiplies the x. So these are the slopes that are involved, and they're all different. So that's something we can take into consideration. We can look at where this line goes through grid points. Here appears to be a couple of them. And look at what the slope is. This would be rise of 1 and a run of 4. So our slope is rise over run is 1 over 4, and that's a positive line, so that's a positive number. A is the only option with a slope of 1/4. Now this concludes the walkthrough of the first semester practice test. And if you have any additional questions, please be sure to ask your teacher. The common assessment is on Monday, so study hard this weekend. Thanks very much. Bye.